Hello and welcome. I'm Mark, M0DXR, Chairman of WRTC 2026. We're pleased and excited to share this review of the just released entrance selection criteria for the event. I'm joined by Lee Valenti, G0MTN, who is Director of Rules and Selection. Over time, we hope to have many similar presentations on YouTube with members of our organising committee as we make major announcements during our progression towards WRTC in the UK in July 2026. You can also find news and updates on our website, which is WRTC2026.org, and we will also be posting updates on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. So, Lee, you've been busy with our team preparing the qualification rules. Can I ask, how did you start with that task?
Hi Mark, and good evening, welcome to everyone watching as well. So the whole team have been busy for several months, so much prior to the announcement that we've been successful in the award to host WRTC 2026 in the UK, and prior to the Italian WRTC. There's been lots of analysis and research going on, many meetings with the team to look at the different rules that we have. The ethos that we're going to have is to build on the legacy of previous WRTC. We want to do sort of evolution, not revolution. So we realise that there's been a good history and lots of good work done. But also at the same time, we don't want to simply reuse the previous criteria. We're certainly looking at all of the feedback that has been given over the last several WRTC. There's been, quite a busy and passionate community of contesters, of course, on the WRTC email reflectors and also places like CQ Contest. Also the timescales that we'll have and the number of teams that we can host for 2026 are some of the variables that will affect the overall rules. We've also had lots of good feedback from the previous WRTC organisers and also the WRTC sanctioning committee. And also to let everyone know that several members of our own UK organising committee have been past WRTC entrants and referees themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. That's great. And I guess one variable that we see from one WRTC event to the next is the number of teams taking part. The organising committee members looking at financing and logistics concluded that our event would support 50 teams in total. What was the impact of that decision on the selection process?
Yep, so that was a very important piece of information. So that's our starting point. So we know 50 is our target for the total number of teams. And so from there, we've then subtracted a number of other teams to arrive at the total of qualifying teams. We've agreed that we'll retain the long-standing custom of inviting the previous WRTC champions. We'll also have 4 youth teams and at least 2 sponsored teams, all similar to previous WRTC. We'll also be including a wildcard element where we'll invite those we feel most deserving who just missed out on a qualification place having gone through the qualification process. So doing the sums, we end up with 42 qualifying teams. We understand that it's a balance. Ideally, I think everyone on the organising committee would like to maximise the number of qualifying teams, make it, as I say, the best race for everyone. But we understand that we do need to have some sponsored teams to help balance the budget, and also we understand that a number of youth teams are important to WRTC for several reasons. So some of these numbers may change slightly over time, but that's our position today.
So Lee, with 42 qualifying teams, can you explain how you've been able to divide those up into geographical areas and work out how many teams would be assigned to each area? I guess that was a challenging task for you.
Yes, absolutely. For 2026, we began looking at the continental team distribution over the last 5 WRTC and then set target figures for the teams for each continent so that we can maintain a good worldwide geographic representation. Next, we've looked at the number of entrants and also the scores those entrants were making from each DXCC entity in major worldwide contests to confirm the demand or the competitiveness for those WRTC team leader positions. We've also considered, say, the evolution of the qualifying areas, the selection areas from previous WRTCs, and we've been building from that. Where we allocate multiple teams per qualification area, we've done that to help balance the figure of the number of potential entrants per qualifying area as much as possible. And our UK organising committee also wished to guarantee a qualifying entry from the UK, as is our prerogative, so we've also created a UK qualification area to guarantee that. Some of the areas are larger or changed compared with previous WRTC. We've looked at many different combinations over time. It's been like a big jigsaw puzzle. We had to split the USA up into different areas. At one stage we'd even look at spreading across different continents. But yeah, we're happy with our solution that we have today. And we've also reintroduced the idea from previous events of subdividing large qualification areas that have low contest activity for qualification scoring purposes. So the example of in Africa, we won't have our friends in ZS South Africa competing with those in the Canary Isles in EA8, as it's quite a geographic and propagation. It's very different indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lee. And I guess our UK WRTC, as it will only be coming 3 years after the last WRTC, which was in July 2023 down in Italy, this will have an impact on the time entrants will have to qualify. So which contests have been chosen? These have sometimes changed quite a lot from one WRTC event to the next. So can you explain which contests you've selected as the qualification events?
Recent WRTCs have had a 2-year or greater qualifying period, and generally up to 12 qualifying scores have counted from a total number of between 24 and 55 qualifying events. So as you know, as the Italian WRTC was delayed by a year due to the COVID pandemic, and we need to be ready for July 2026, we've decided to reduce the traditional qualification period to start this October 2023 and end in March 2025. And we know, as I say, from all of the organising committee, being keen contesters, we recognise that doing well in major international events requires, significant commitment in terms of time, energy, money, family, goodwill, etc. So the number of qualifying events that we'll have and the minimum number of qualifying entries needed has been reduced compared with the previous WRTC qualification periods. So we've concluded, we believe that we'll have a minimum of 8 qualifying scores from a total of 15 qualifying events over a 16-month period, and we believe that this is feasible. We recognise that many contesters will be entering both of the CQ Worldwide DX phone and CW events this autumn or this fall, and maybe both ARRL International DX events in spring 25. And so then, potentially, you just need to carry out, 4 entries during the main 2024 qualification period as a minimum. So we think there should be enough flexibility in the time allowed for additional contests to be entered as needed. And so the events that have been chosen, again, several similar to previous WRTC, are spread throughout the whole year. It's our understanding that the results from the final qualification event, ARRL International DX in 2025, should be published in around August 2025, and we think that will then give enough time to identify team leaders and the eligible teammates, and then allow those successful team leads and teammates approximately 9 months to prepare and make travel arrangements to the UK. The events that we've chosen, and they'll be shown on the screen if not already, represent a good selection of international DX contests supported worldwide. We know that there is always feedback about, say, changing which contests are picked, but we've done analysis of other events, including regional and domestic contests that have been used in some earlier WRTCs, but we didn't conclude that they would alter who would qualify as WRTC entrants. We'd also looked at adding some other contests, but we discounted those where their points or multiplier rules might benefit some entrants in the qualification area unfairly.
There have been also some changes made to the contest category weightings. Can you explain what was behind that? What was the intention of making those modifications?
So the overall aim, of course, is to try and improve fairness, and probably every single person watching this will have their own opinion on what constitutes fair. So we've tried to use real-world contest results data to help us and be sort of data-driven and data-led, and not just on opinions or our experiences, which may not be always correct, or it may not consider everyone in all parts of the world. So for 2026, to say we've decided that the single operator low power and single operator low power assisted weighting will be raised by 0.5 compared with the 2022 event. And also we want to recognise that the WRTC contest itself, the IRU HF Championship, is usually a multi-operator 2-transmitter low power 100 watt contest for WRTC, but very little of the qualification that our entrants or would-be entrants will carry out will be done using this style of operating. So with the recent introduction of that multi-2 low power category in the IAU HF Championship, that is one of our qualifying events, and we've given, as I say, this contest and that category a weighting of 1.0 and 1,000 WRTC qualification points for this contest specifically. So we hope to see a lot of WRTC style operating during the qualification period.
What we're tending to see more commonly these days is with a number of the contests is no separate assisted and unassisted category, so such as CQWPX. What will happen with that? How will the WRTC 2026 criteria take that into consideration?
Yes, Mark. So yeah, that was a slightly tricky one. So where contests are no longer differentiating between assisted and unassisted entries, we need to say be careful of the language. Is the one category removed, or which category is merged one into the other? Upon review and having looked at the data, we believe that a weighting of 1.0 for high power entrants and 0.95 for low power entrants should be most appropriate. Some people might argue that an assisted entrant is unfairly helped, and considering that it's 0.95 and 0.9 for high power and low power respectively for that weighting for operating assisted in other contests. However, say in CQWPX and any other contests that follow suit this way, the entrants will still need to compete and do well against unassisted entrants. And if we did apply those other, say, assisted weightings of 0.95 and 0.9 applied to all, then unassisted entrants would be disadvantaged compared with similar results for other contests with an unassisted category. So yeah, we believe we're doing the right thing with our weighting.
Yeah, so if maybe we could move on to a sensitive topic. In the build-up for WRTC 2022, there was a lot of discussion around entrants from Russia and Belarus in light of the political situation. Could you share the opinion of WRTC 2026, the organising committee, and the impact on the qualification process for that?
Yes, Mark. Yep, I think it's important that we do cover this, and we're very plain about our position and how we would want to go forward. So the organising committee, we've looked to the International Olympic Committee, and will follow their guidelines rather than form a bespoke opinion as a small group ourselves. So I think we understand that the IOC worldwide is very well respected, and they have a far greater breadth of understanding in these matters than we would ourselves, and then hopefully that everyone involved with qualifying and taking part in WRTC will appreciate and respect that. So based on those IOC guidelines that we reviewed, the WRTC 2026 organising committee will, whilst the internationally recognised conflict continues, affirm solidarity with Ukrainian entrants and support their qualification and entry into the event. Entrants from Russia and Belarus can complete the qualification process. They are included as eligible countries with qualification areas defined for them in the qualification rules. The rules for the WRTC contest itself in July 2026, when those are published, will specify if competitors from Russia and Belarus will enter as neutral entrants with restrictions on national flags and anthems or not. WRTC 2026 expects good sportsmanship and professionalism from all of our competitors.
And many of the rules appear to be quite similar to most recent WRTCs. How would you highlight or summarise the changes this time round, Lee?
Yep, thanks, Mark. So I think we'll show the main points on screen, and I think, as we said at the start, as I say, the ethos was on the sort of evolution, not revolution. We can see and understand why, as I say, most of the present rules are the way they are, and for good reason. And many of the changes that we've introduced for the UK WRTC have been driven by the reduced qualification period. Say scaling down the number of qualifying events, or how many of the best scores will count, and that has then trickled on for how many of the scores could be from multi-operator entries or out of home qualification area entries as well. We've then also in proportion changed some of the teammate qualification criteria because of this. And as we've mentioned earlier, that the qualification area design has been data driven, wanting to use real contest data where we can, based on the volume of entries and also the number of high scoring entries to try to understand the true competitiveness in each area. And that was also then affected and then moved on to the low power weighting changes as well. So we hope that the changes that we're proposing will be understood, and they'll be welcomely received by most people. We realise that it's never going to be perfect for everyone, but we hope they'll be well received.
Thank you, Lee. Now, as the qualification process begins this October with CQ Worldwide sideband and continues on to the year 2025, will entrants be able to track their progress as results are announced?
Yes, I say very similar to recent previous WRTC. We're planning a solution for this, and our IT team, our sub-team, are currently evaluating the solutions for this. So how entrants can monitor their scores within their qualification area. As we know, there'll be so much interest and excitement following this as everyone goes through the qualification process. we'll share details of this later on once we've more to tell.
Sounds good, Lee. Thanks. So just wrapping up then, I guess, can you tell the audience where they can read all of the details on the selection criteria?
Yes, of course. So the selection criteria, so all of the details have been posted to our website, WRTC2026.org, alongside a questions and answers document, which is very similar to our conversation here today, trying to explain the background to the decision process, how we came up with the rules, with the qualification areas, and highlighting why we've made some of the changes or our new additions. So recognise that some of the changes are not going to be obvious to understand, and sometimes there are, say, constraints affecting our rules choices. Maybe things would have been a lot easier if we'd had, say, 60 or 70 teams, but yeah, we're working within our means.
That's great. Thanks ever so much, Lee. That's wonderful, and appreciate all of your efforts in putting the proposals to the organising committee and working with the organising committee to finalise that. Now, we're both sure that there will be plenty of feedback and questions from the contesting community. So we would like to also announce that alongside the publishing of the selection criteria, we have opened an email reflector for discussion of all topics related to WRTC. It's hosted by the popular groups.io platform and called WRTC 2026-Discuss. This will become one of our communication channels alongside our website, social media, and use of email reflectors like CQ-contest for major announcements. Our organising committee will be reading your messages and responding to questions. There will likely be comments mostly around the qualification process initially, but as we also discuss volunteers and sponsorship, our headquarters venue and contest sites, logistics and travel, the programme of events and the contest itself, of course, as we get closer to July 2026. So this will be an excellent platform to learn about all of that and ask any questions that you may have. So that's all we have for now. Thank you very much for watching and supporting WRTC 2026 73, and we hope that you enjoy the event all the way through to the conclusion in July 2026 itself. Thank you.